Welcome back, FPL managers. It's your FPL plug. We haven't been on this channel for too long, so I thought I'd come back and do a Game Week 4 video, let you know everything that there is to know for Game Week 4, everything you need to know, and let me know down in the comments if you have any questions on anything that I go through in this video. We'll be talking about my Game Week 3 points, my team that I'm looking to put out for Game Week 4, and also the possible transfers that I'm going to make. And there's going to be a really cool graphic at the end, so let me know down below in the comments if you like the graphic that I show at the end. Right then, FPL manager, so let's talk about Game Week 3. I had a bit of a shock. It was all going so well for the first couple of games, and then it just went really downhill from there. So first of all, the toss-up was between whether to captain Chris Wood or captain Bruno Fernandes here. He ended up getting my vice captaincy. Chris Wood ended up getting the captaincy just because I thought it was the maybe slightly more differential captaincy pick. Maybe I shouldn't have gone there. Although both of them were very differential captaincy picks, so it wasn't like Bruno Fernandes was the most popular pick this week. João Pedro was probably the most popular pick this week, so it was a blowing good job that I brought him in. So he was one of my transfers in for this week, and I think he did a really good job. I think he's going to be good to keep him in this season because of his effective ownership. It is very high. However, I do think he's also a brilliant asset to own at the moment, especially with Palmer out. His minutes are pretty much nailed on for almost the full 90 minutes. So I will be keeping João Pedro. Lots of people are maybe going to be doubting Bruno Fernandes. However, that 10-pointer basically just shows how good he can be in FPL. Obviously, got that penalty goal at the end, got the defensive contribution points, so he got 10 points, and well done to anyone that did end up captaining him. But other than that, some really disappointing players. Sanchez, the only other returner in my team. Luckily, Anderson got the defensive contribution points, and I think Pedro Porro got an assist for 4 points. But the rest, Nico Williams, absolute stinker. Salah, stinker, got the clean sheet, but that's basically nothing. Reinders, I think I'm okay to hold him because he's not very expensive, but still not a great game from him. Rodgers and Watkins are really testing my patience at the moment. We'll speak about those two a little bit later on in the video, but this week, absolutely awful. And then Chris Wood with the captaincy. Another blank for Chris Wood. I don't think it's cause for concern just yet. I am recording this video just as Ange has been announced. Nuno's been sacked. Ange is coming in. So maybe that makes Chris Wood a better pick because they will be more attacking. But as we saw with Ange at Spurs last season, it doesn't necessarily mean that main focal point up front is a focal point. He used Dominic Solanke to press teams rather than to get into those goal-scoring opportunities. So maybe it makes someone like Ndoye or Callum Hudson-Odoi a much better asset, and maybe it doesn't make Chris Wood that much better of an asset, but he's still on penalties, and he has some really nice fixtures after this Arsenal game. But let's talk about my team going into Game Week 4 and the possible transfers that I might be doing. Right then, let's have a talk about the team selection. So I've changed up the graphics a little bit, so let me know if you like the graphics with the team just looking like this as I have it set up currently, and also all of the fixtures on the left-hand side. Let me know if you do like that, or if you want me to revert back to the old way of doing it and maybe show you me playing around with my team a little bit more. But for now, we've got, so this is the bus team, as it were, going into Game Week 4. So we've got Sanchez in goal against Brentford, absolutely happy with that. Pedro Porro against West Ham, again, absolutely fine with that. Anderson against Leeds, brilliant fixture at home. Nico Williams, however, is the man that I'm most worried about. However, Ollie Aina in the international friendlies has actually got an injury, so most likely he won't play. And Nottingham Forest have just signed Zinchenko, so it could be Nico Williams and Zinchenko that start this game against Arsenal. And yes, Arsenal are a very good defence, so I'm not expecting Nico Williams to get too much attacking lead, but if he ever was going to get points, it would be under Ange. However, Arsenal haven't been brilliant going forwards, and I might be misremembering this, but I don't think they're brilliant at home either. So, Nico Williams could be a rogue shout for a clean sheet that not many people will have in. Obviously, lots of people will have the likes of Murillo, Milenkovic, so maybe they will have the Nottingham Forest defensive coverage, but obviously it's not a perfect pick. So that's the back line. I'm not too worried about those guys, to be honest. And then coming into the midfield, this is where I'm worried. So Bruno Fernandes obviously has a hard fixture against Man City, but probably plays into the fact that he'll get more defensive contributions, so he should get the extra points, and then anything else on top of that is just a bonus. Mo Salah for me gets the captain's armband, and it's no question. I think if you have someone like Ekitike, maybe you go there, but there are obviously the slight rotation risks with Alexander Isak. However, I would probably say you're pretty safe in going with Ekitike this week against Burnley. Maybe not going forwards with Isak, but his match fitness, he only played 27 minutes or something like that in the international break for Sweden, so I'm not worried about him starting. I don't think he'll start for Liverpool. Coming from a Liverpool fan, I think Ekitike could be the best captaincy option this week. However, Mo Salah I think will be the most popular captaincy option, bar maybe Erling Haaland against Man United. And speaking against going up against Man United, Reinders I think picks himself really. Obviously a very cheap asset, but he was really good against Wolves in the opening fixture. So hopefully Man United are not on their A game and Reinders can do something against them. And then Ismail Assar unfortunately does look like he's injured for the next 1, 2, 3 game weeks, depending on the team news. I'm recording this before we get team news for Crystal Palace. So he is probably the main player that I'm looking to move out of my team, which is really, really frustrating because obviously I brought him in for this Sunderland game and then the next couple of games that Crystal Palace have. And he got a 10-pointer last week, so I could have played him, should have probably played him, but now he's injured. So that is the game of FPL, very, very frustrating because I could have gone the other way and gone with Mateta and Semenyo, although João Pedro got 9 points, so it swings in roundabouts really. But that is the midfield. I'll talk about the possible transfers with Ismail Assar, and I am thinking about benching Rodgers, and most likely will bench Rodgers because they have just looked absolutely useless, Aston Villa, so I don't want to double up this week, although I may have to if I don't make any transfers. Then going into the forward line, I've got João Pedro, obviously, vice-captain against Brentford. Brilliant, brilliant fixture. Happy with him. If you have him, definitely play him and maybe even think about captaining him. Watkins against Everton, again, been very, very poor, but if anyone is going to get that goal, then I think it will be Ollie Watkins over Rodgers, so I'm happy enough keeping him in for now. If I was going to move him on, I would either try and move him to Erling Haaland, however, I would want Salah still, so I wouldn't be able to move him on to Erling Haaland, but I would be able to move him to Mateta. So if I was going to sell Watkins, which it doesn't look likely, I would move him to Mateta. And then Wood against Arsenal, not ideal whatsoever. He could possibly come out for Rodgers, but I just think Chris Wood on penalties is most likely going to stay in my team. Maybe I rotate in Juve and hope that he gets some sort of attacking return or clean sheet against Spurs. But for me, I think that's going to be sort of where I finish up with the team selection for Game Week 4. So let me know down in the comments if you think I should change any of that team. And now we'll go into the possible transfers that I could make to this. So for this section of the video, we are actually going to be doing a little bit more on the computer, and I'll actually show you exactly what I'm thinking about doing with my team in terms of the possible transfers. So this is what the team looks like currently on Fantasy Football Hub. I will leave a link down in the description if you do want to sign up for Fantasy Football Hub. Obviously, it does help me if you sign up through my link, so I do really appreciate that. So currently, the Game Week ranking is absolutely stinky. The team rating's okay, but yeah, not looking good at all at the minute. So we've got 0.9 million in the bank. I don't think it's quite bad enough to warrant a wild card. I'm not sure who I would exactly need to have in my team. I think I want to save that until sort of around Game Week 13 time when I can actually make wholesale changes to my team. I do have plans to get Haaland in the near future, getting rid of Salah, so that's not really too much of an issue either. But let's look at this week and the transfers that I may look to do and the best midfielders that I currently see in the market of FPL. So the main person that I would be looking to get rid of is obviously Ismail Assar if he is injured. Kind of depends on the team news there, but I can sell him for 6.5 million. He hasn't gone up, and I think the best player to bring in for me personally, and probably you at home too, if you do have the funds, is someone like Semenyo. Because if I do this, make the transfer, and then optimize the team there, it bumps up the Gameweek rating by 2%. And I then get Semenyo in my team against Bournemouth. Then he has Newcastle and Leeds in the next three. So really, really good. Maybe one thing to look out for with Semenyo is if you are free hitting in game week 6, then Semenyo might not be the right pick for you. But to be honest, I wouldn't read too much into that, just because you want to be picking the right FPL picks in general. You don't want to be focusing on fixtures too much, or in my personal opinion, you don't anyway. But for me, Semenyo is the best midfield option at the moment. He looks really, really attacking in that Bournemouth team. Maybe when they get players like Clivert back, he could become slightly less attacking, but he looks really good and has the data to back that up, as he always does. He was my absolute hero at the end of last season, so I would love to bring him in. However, if I wasn't going for Semenyo and you need someone else to go for, I would probably be looking at someone like, how do you spell this somewhere? Njai. So, the reason I like Njai over Grealish is basically purely because he's got penalties and he's more of a, I would argue, an attacking threat than Grealish is. Yes, Grealish is getting a lot of returns recently, but he has had a lot of assists to get those attacking returns. And in FPL, a goal is worth way, way, way more, especially for a midfielder, than an assist is. So if you have Njai on penalties, way more likely to score a goal from a penalty. And also he has the option to be cutting in for those Grealish assists. Even if Grealish does assist it, Njai has more likelihood to be scoring the goal. So that's the reason that I like Njai. And he's only 6.5 million, so he would be a straight swap from Ismail Assar. And he also has decent fixtures. Obviously, the Liverpool away fixture isn't brilliant, but Aston Villa at home seems like a good fixture at the moment. West Ham at home, also a very, very strong fixture. So they're probably the top two midfielders that I would go for this week. I most likely will just be moving straight from Sarr to Semenyo. However, let's have a quick look at the other options that I do have. So if I just remove him and add Sarr back in here, then I could, if I wanted to, just play Rodgers. Oh, let me just make the transfers. So play Rodgers here, and then sell someone like Watkins. Now, the reason I'm not going to do this is because Watkins' fixtures are so good. But I could sell someone like Watkins and go to Mateta, because I don't currently have any Crystal Palace coverage. And I really, really would like the Crystal Palace coverage, to be honest with you. And the best way that I wanted to get the Crystal Palace coverage was going to be from going with someone like Diouf, taking him out for Munoz. However, I'm 0.1 million off doing that pick, so I can't do that. That would be a no-brainer for me. I would just go Diouf to Munoz and then play Munoz with Nico Williams this week and just bench Rodgers. However, I don't have the funds for that. So the only other option really for me to get Crystal Palace players in for this Sunderland at home game, then West Ham, is going for someone like Mateta. I don't hate that at all. I think Mateta, if Crystal Palace score, now they've lost Eze, then I think, and obviously Sarr's injured, I think Mateta is basically nailed on to be the goal scorer for any of Crystal Palace's goals. But maybe it does make them slightly worse going forwards without Sarr and Eze. I mean, definitely it makes them slightly worse, right? So Mateta, I think, is a great option, and I'm very tempted to just make this transfer, get rid of Watkins. He's been doing really badly for me at the minute, really expensive, and just go all the way down to Mateta for these two games. However, I'm probably more tempted to do this. So if I get Ollie Watkins back, and then I go Pedro Porro to Munoz, basically just as a straight swap, no -4 or anything like that. I get the Sunderland fixture for Munoz. Yes, I don't get the fixture for Pedro Porro. However, I could then just go straight from someone like Diouf or Anderson next week. So if we go, can I go to the next week? If I go and make transfers here. Yeah, if I go to game week 5 and optimize the team here, then I could go straight from someone like either Anderson or Diouf, depending on who I want to take out, basically. And then swap him, let's say it's Anderson, swap him with a defender from Spurs, which would most likely be Van der Ven. So Van der Ven's already gone up by 0.1 million, but if I went for him, then I would obviously get the Brighton fixture. So I could probably not even make that transfer this week. So save another transfer up and then make it the week after in game week. Let's just remove that. Let's do that. So game week 6, I could go Anderson out and then Van der Ven in for the Wolves, Leeds and Aston Villa fixtures, which is a really good run of fixtures that I do want a Spurs defender in. And then I have these players to go. Munoz against Liverpool. I'm fine with him against Liverpool, attacking down that right-hand side against Kirkes. I think Munoz is probably the best pick. I could keep someone like Ismail Assar if he does then come back from injury. I have all these guys. And then I just have Van der Ven, Munoz and Nico Williams. So it looks really, really good in game week 6. Wood against Sunderland. Salah against Crystal Palace, Bruno Fernandes against Brentford, Burnley, Watkins against Fulham as well. I could even play Rodgers over Sarr if I didn't like that Liverpool, the sort of double up against Liverpool, which I probably don't. So yeah, that is also a very strong possibility, but that does mean that I get rid of Pedro Porro. So I think you'll have to tune in to my live stream on Saturday to find out what transfers I do make. But those are probably the most likely transfers that I have. And then if you do need another defensive option, so I think the best is Munoz, but if you need a cheaper option, I think Senesi's a really, really good shot. He's been really good for bonus points this season. So I would go for Senesi as that cheaper option if I wasn't going for someone like Van der Ven. And then the best two midfielders are Semenyo and Ndai, in my opinion. And then the best striker is Mateta or like João Pedro if you don't have him. So yeah, those are the possible transfers and the best transfers that I believe you can make this. Right then, I promised you all that I had a really, really nice graphic to show you at the end of the video. Shout out to Rob TFPL. Over on Twitter, or X as it's called now, but he's put together, as always, the projected goals and the clean sheet odds for all of the different fixtures this week. Obviously, we've got the fixture list here, but let's take a look at the goals and the clean sheets, or the expected goals and the expected clean sheets for each team. So, starting off at the top, Arsenal actually have a much higher projected goals than I thought they were going to have, and also a much higher projected clean sheets. So, almost the best, bar Liverpool against Burnley. They are, second best. Arsenal, 4 goals projected. So if you do have the likes of Gyökeres, it's a brilliant game week to play them. And if you have the likes of Gabriel at the back, Raya, also going to be a brilliant week for you. Yes, Nottingham Forest are probably a little bit more unpredictable, so you probably can't judge just solely off this. But I think the odds have gotten even better now that Nuno's out and Ange is in. So Arsenal assets are going to be brilliant this week. And probably Nico Williams and Chris Wood are not going to be brilliant this week. So I probably don't want to double up on them, but I might have to. Going on to the next game, Bournemouth versus Brighton. not too much to talk about there, but if you do have someone like Semenyo, they are expected to score 1.56 goals, so they are expected to score at least one goal, so you may get a return out of Semenyo there. Same for the Fulham game, really. West Ham Spurs. Spurs actually have a lot lower expected goals than I thought they were going to have. Maybe that's just based on recent form. Obviously, they lost 2-0 recently, so I think Spurs players are still fine to own someone like Pedro Porro, but not essential. And their clean sheet percentage is also not brilliant. So going from someone like Pedro Porro from Spurs to someone like Munoz at Chelsea, you go from a 28% clean sheet odds to 43% clean sheet odds. And also then they have more attacking threat as well. And Munoz is going to be one of the most attacking outlets in that Crystal Palace team for this week. So I'm really getting more and more tempted to bring Munoz in this week. I think he will be a brilliant asset going forward. So now we're on to the Burnley-Liverpool game, probably the biggest game of the weekend for FPL players. If you have the likes of Wirtz, if you have the likes of Ekitike, if you have the likes of Salah, in my personal opinion, someone from that Liverpool team should be your captain unless you have Erling Haaland. Maybe Salah's not the best captain going forwards in this new Liverpool lineup. Maybe he's not the talisman, but I think against Burnley, and he's on penalties, it's going to be a brilliant week to captain Mo Salah, and that's where my armband will be and will stay throughout the weekend. Then we've got Everton, Aston Villa. Aston Villa's goal expected goals is still really low through the floor. Everton's actually being higher than theirs, so if you have someone like Njai or Jack Grealish, a decent if not good game to play them in. Crystal Palace we've spoken about, great goal expected goals, great clean sheet percentage. And then Newcastle players, if you have the likes of I don't know, Anthony Gordon, is he fit at the moment? I'm not sure. Or a Newcastle defender like Shaw, then a really good game week for you. If you have the likes of Strand Lawson, I think he's still injured, or if you have any other Wolves attackers, probably not a brilliant week to play them. Obviously, this isn't exactly what's going to happen. There'll be some that are wrong, some that are right in this. This is just to give you a guide on whether it should be a good week for your players. Brentford, Chelsea, João Pedro looks like he's going to have another field day against Brentford. 34% chance of a clean sheet as well. So your Sanchez's, your Cucurella's, brilliant options for this week. And then Man City versus Man United. Man United actually creeping over that one expected goals. So Man City might not get that clean sheet, but 2.02 expected goals for Man City. And Haaland's just scored 5 goals and got 2 assists in the international break against, I think it was Moldova. So he's on fire. Obviously a great captaincy option against Man United. So these are the projected goals and the clean sheet odds. I hope that helped at least some of your decisions for this game week. And let me know down in the comments if you have any questions on any transfers that you're thinking about or any benching dilemmas, and I'll do my best to get back to you. But we're so close to 200 followers or subscribers, as you say on YouTube. So if you're not subscribed already and you have watched till the end of this video, please do subscribe and hit that like button. But yeah, good luck in game week 4 of FPL.